Greetings and welcome to another cooking demonstration. I hope you're all doing well today. Today we are going to be doing some cooking related to the holidays. Now I know that there's often questions as we add more plants to our plate about what do we do for those wonderful barbecue meals. So today I'm going to actually prepare with you two dishes, one a main dish and one a side dish that I think you can take to any barbecue this summer and in summers to come, and I think they will be a big hit. I will post these recipes on the website and you will be able to modify them to your discretion in terms of seasonings. I'm going to be using a plant-based protein for our pulled pork sandwiches, but you're welcome to use whatever best suits your taste at this current time. And look forward to hearing comments from you about how you enjoyed these recipes. For now, let's get started. So our first recipe is going to be a vegan pulled pork recipe. And I'm certain that many of you probably aren't certain what this tastes like, but the recipe is really simple. So today we're going to be using some Butler soy curls, which you can obtain from Butler products directly. You can obtain them from Amazon. You may be able to obtain them from some other retailers, but essentially they are whole, non-genetically modified soybeans that are dried and processed into these lovely, tasty protein strips. And all we're going to do is to start by rehydrating them and some seasoning, allowing them to soak while we're prepping the rest of the recipes. So as you may have heard, I was boiling some water. And I like to prepare these in a big Pyrex dish, but you can heat the water and use it in any dish that you may find suitable. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by adding some seasoning to the water so that we can create a marinade for the soy curls. Now, we're going to start by adding 2 tablespoons of, I'm using Bragg's liquid aminos. You can use soy sauce, you can use tamari if you're gluten-free. And we're just going to add 2 tablespoons of this to the boiling water. And always be careful when you're adding things to boiling water because it can actually have a little bit of an excess reaction if you have a bowl that's not too deep. So add 2 tablespoons of the Bragg's. And then we're going to also add some Dijon mustard. And I'm using just a Dijon from Thrive Market. I love to shop at Thrive, partly because during the pandemic, I was able to get a lot of products from them online. But they also have a lot of great goods at very reasonable and low prices, and the quality is great. So let's add 2 tablespoons of the mustard. And again, I'm using a Dijon mustard. And then we'll add a little bit of pepper. I'm not big with recording volume, so I'm just going to sprinkle some pepper in until I think it looks pretty good. And then the same thing, it's about a ½ teaspoon of garlic seasoning. I'm just using some garlic powder as opposed to garlic salt because the liquid aminos are relatively salty, at least to my taste. So I'm just going to add a little bit of garlic salt to this, garlic powder, sorry. And then we're going to give that a stir. You can see I've added that to the bowl. Just going to whisk this around a little bit. If you have a whisk, you can use a whisk too. And then once all of those ingredients are incorporated, you can go ahead and add the soy curls. So if you've never seen what the soy curls look like, they look like little protein strips. They're actually kind of tasty. I've eaten them dry more than once. But all you want to do is to carefully add the soy curls to your hydration solution. And all this is really doing is hydrating the soy curls. We'll get some additional seasoning when we add the barbecue sauce. And today I'm using a prepared barbecue sauce. We're not going to make a homemade, but if you have homemade barbecue sauce on hand, that is definitely a great option. So get those mixed up in your mixing bowls so that you can hydrate the soy curls. And we're starting with this so we can set this aside while we move on to some of the other preparation. And while these are hydrating, we can be preparing the vegetables and also our side dish. Now, if you don't feel like there's enough liquid, you can always add another cup of water, but you don't want these too wet because they will also soak up some additional seasoning when we add the barbecue sauce and when we add them in with the onion and the jalapeno pepper. So as you can see, these are starting to get soft already. And this just adds a very nice kind of garlicky. You don't even taste the mustard very much. Okay, I am going to set these aside. These taste yummy. Gonna have another one. Good. Okay, you can set those aside. So while those are hydrating, we're going to prepare our side dish, which is going to be a coleslaw. Now, for the coleslaw, again, here I've been listening to your feedback, and I know that while I love to make a lot of things from scratch, time is of the essence. So we're going to use a lot of the ingredients that are already pre-prepared. So the coleslaw is going to be made with just a few ingredients. And we're going to start by combining, I'm actually going to use some plant-based mayonnaise. If you are following an oil-free or oil-light nutrition plan, you may want to choose another option. This is actually made with avocado oil. There are many other different types of mayos you can use. You can use the mayo of your preference. This is what I prefer. And we're just going to use 1/3 cup. Of the mayo. And hopefully you're a little bit neater than I am as you pour this out. So just use 1/3 cup. And let me wipe this up so I don't get myself too messy. Okay, so that's 1/3 cup of the mayo. We're going to add to the mayo 2 tablespoons, the same mustard that we used for the pulled pork. Just 2 tablespoons of the mustard. Add that into your bowl. Give that a little mix. Start to mix the mayo and the mustard together. And next we're going to add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And if you don't have any apple cider vinegar, you can probably use a white wine vinegar if you have that. I don't know if I would use a red wine vinegar. I've never tried making a coleslaw with the red wine vinegar, but definitely try and use what you have on hand. And we'll stir that together gently. If you have a whisk, you can actually whisk this together. And now this also calls for a teaspoon of maple syrup. I don't like my coleslaw all that sweet, so I'm just going to use a little dollop which is probably less than a teaspoon. And this is just, again, another product from Thrive Market, some organic pure maple syrup. And then finally, we're going to use a little bit of celery salt. If you have celery seed powder, I would actually recommend that. I don't have any celery powder on hand, so I'm probably going to make this a little saltier than I would like. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit. But the celery flavor is actually one of those traditional flavors that you tend to notice when you're eating coleslaw. So celery powder would definitely be my recommendation if you have it. Oh, that tastes good. And then next, you'll find on the recipe when I posted that I also say salt to taste. I honestly don't think you need any salt in this recipe. Between the mustard and the celery salt, if you're using celery salt, there's probably too much sodium from a day's perspective. So again, quick and easy. I'm going to use some tri-colored coleslaw that's already prepared. If you don't have any of this on hand, you can shred some cabbage, some white cabbage, some red cabbage, and some carrots. But all you want to do is start to add your coleslaw to your sauce mix. And you can see that this is easy peasy. And I'll tell you that this gets better over time. You can also see I like to nibble while I cook. So you can make this and you can keep it in the refrigerator for up to 5 days. And I actually like to make it the day before I'm actually going to serve it, because I think the flavors incorporate into the cabbage and you just get this really lovely taste. So I'm using the full 16 ounces of cabbage in this recipe. And what you'll notice is that even though the sauce looked a little runny, by the time you add in the cabbage, it actually is able to absorb most of the sauce that we made. And so it is not runny at all. So you just want to continue. Make sure you use a large bowl if you're using a 16-ounce bag so that you have enough room to turn and you can get this well incorporated. And believe it or not, your coleslaw is done. So you can set that aside. You can put it in the refrigerator. If you're serving it today, you can put a cover on it and put it in the fridge and let that continue to marinate a little bit, maybe turning it once or twice if you're cooking it early in the morning, just so you can make sure all of the pieces of the vegetables are well coated. And you're done with the cabbage. Just going to set that aside for now because we're going to come back to that. Let's give our soy curls another little mix just to make sure they're well incorporated. And you can see there's not much juice left, but that the soy curls are very moist. Okay, that's great. So the next thing we're going to do is to prepare our veggies. So I like to add scallions. You can use onion if you don't have any scallions. So I'm going to use a couple of jalapenos and a couple of scallions, and we're just going to chop those up. I have a pan that I've been heating since we started. We'll add the vegetables to the pan. Now, one thing you'll notice in my recipes, I don't use oil. And so if you're sauteing or if you're trying to prepare vegetables like this, you can add a little bit of water, you can add a little bit of vegetable stock, but if you start with a warm pan and keep the vegetables moving while they're cooking, it will keep them from sticking significantly, and it will allow you to saute them without a lot of added oils to your meal. So let's go ahead and start chopping. I am as you will soon learn, not a cook. I'm not a great chopper. I was a surgeon, so at least I'm relatively safe. And we're just going to get the onion ready to go so we can chop those. And I am just putting my scraps in a little bin for, if you like to compost, you can compost some of this. Sorry that I keep heading off camera. My bowl is a little bit lower off to the side. And you can use 2 scallions, 3 scallions. Let's start with 2 and see what this looks like as they get chopped up. And I'm going to chop all of the vegetables and get them ready. Then we're going to put them into the pan at one time. And as I said, I am not a chef. So if you want to learn really well-refined knife skills, I would refer you, and I can put links to some great websites onto the blog post. It can help you with your culinary skills. I will definitely not say that I am a culinary artist, but I get her done and it tastes good. And I think these 2 are probably going to do it because I don't have a lot of soy curls. I did use the whole bag of soy curls, and that was a 8-ounce bag of soy curls, which I think is the same as I have in the recipe. The onions are starting to make me want to cry a little bit. So we'll get all these chopped up. And then we'll move on to our jalapeno. So I have 4 jalapenos here. Let's start and see what it looks like with 2. I'm just going to chop and de-seed these first 2. And I'm not really picky about getting all the seeds out. Onions are strong. And then we can just gonna slice these a little bit and then chop them and add them to our veggie pile. And again, my knife skills are not great. They work. And you always want to make sure, especially when you're chopping jalapenos, that you rinse your hands off before you accidentally put your finger in your eye or do something like that, because the oils and juices from the jalapenos are pretty significant. So I think I'm going to do, we're going to stick with just these 2. Okay, maybe 1 more. I love veggies. And I might do I think I have a little scallion over here. Might do 1 more scallion too. So while I'm finishing chopping up, would love to have you put any questions that you may have, and we can answer those online while we finish prepping these veggies. we do have some additional cooking demos coming up. This is cooking demo 2 of 4. And if there are things you would like to see us cook, please feel free to share that either on the website or email us. You can reach us at reachnkc@stlukeskc.org, and we'll have that in the show notes also. And then for good measure, let me just do this last scallion since I took it out. And you can never have too many veggies. Sorry for the sniffling. Okay, now my pan is nice and hot. Before I add my veggies to the pan, after I finish chopping, I'm just going to wash my hands briefly. So I'll step away from the camera for a second. But you can see that this recipe is not complicated. I'm going to add all of these veggies to my pan. And we're just going to saute these for just until the edges start to brown. I wish you could smell how wonderful it smells in here. And as you can see, my pan is well seasoned, number one. I use it a lot. But the veggies are, even on this electric cooktop, as I keep them moving, they're not sticking. I'm going to stir my coleslaw just a little bit. And it does start to reduce down. Let's bring it into the picture for a second. You can see as the sauce is absorbed into the cabbage leaves, shreds, it does reduce down quite a bit. So it'll become easier for you to turn and move around. And keep moving those veggies so they don't stick. If you're using a pan that you find your veggies starting to stick a little, you can add a little bit of water. You can add a little bit of veggie stock. And as these continue to cook, we're going to add in, and take a look at these soy curls. I mean, they have absorbed all of the liquid that we use. And I would encourage you, if this is the first time using them, give one a taste. The great thing about soy curls is that they absorb whatever flavor you marinate them in. So we are going to add the soy curls to the pan and allow them to cook in with the veggies. So I added about half the soy curls to the pan. Mixing them around very well. Now the second half, we're actually going to use this for the barbecue sauce. As I mentioned, I hear your feedback, so we're also going to be using some prepared barbecue sauce today. Now, my only issue with barbecue sauce in general is that it can be very high in added sugars, which is why if you have the opportunity to make your own or choose a low sugar variety, you can find a paleo variety, whatever best suits your nutritional goals. But I'm going to start with just half a cup of the barbecue sauce. Mix that in with the soy curls that are still in my Pyrex dish. And then I will add these to our cooking pan. Now you can make these as saucy. I mean, I'll be honest with you right now, you could eat this as it is. You know, I often cook the soy curls with just some onion and some jalapeno as my part of my meal prep. And then during the course of the week, I can add this as just a native prep to whatever I may be interested in cooking. If you want to reserve a little bit of that to the side, you can add that to a bowl. And I'm just doing this to give you some ideas about how you can multi-purpose when you're cooking, because I know everyone is time constrained. And so if you know you're going to be needing to make some lunch meals or some other meals for the week, save a little bit of this on the side without any of the barbecue sauce. And then you can add this to a bowl of veggies or whatever you may like. But now let's go and add the rest of our soy curls to the pan. And we'll give that a mix. And then as you can tell, we're going to need to add some more barbecue sauce. I'm adding this in portions so that it doesn't get too saucy too quickly. But let's add let's start with a 1/4 cup. Not too much. I'm going to turn this down because at this point, you are pretty much done. So this is your pulled pork. It is a barbecue-based seasoned soy curls with onion, with scallion and jalapeno. And again, you don't need to add the jalapeno if you don't like your food spicy. You can use any type of onion you may have on board. I'd say white onion and scallions work the best. But that is the basis of most of our meal. So while I'm here, let me show you some prep tips. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to finish cooking up our soy curls. Turn this down to a lower heat. You can even cook this pan on your grill if you want. And again, if you were here, you would just be amazed at how delicious this smells. So one last thing we're going to add to our meal. Again, time is money and time is expediency. So we're going to have some baked beans. I love baked beans. Once again, you can make your own baked beans. There's lots of recipes on the internet for homemade baked beans. If you don't have the time or energy, finding these are organic. You can have low sodium, low sugar. There are lots of different options for baked beans out there, but it just doesn't feel like a barbecue without baked beans. Now you got your baked beans, you got your coleslaw. How do you eat this? So you can actually make these as wraps. I have some baby butter lettuce. And let me just give you one prep idea. So you can prepare these as sliders. You can get some pretzel buns or some slider buns, put a little bit of the coleslaw on the bun, then add a little bit of the pulled pork, add a little bit more of the coleslaw, You can also, if you are really looking to add a couple more plants to your plate, you can make a nice wrap with these. So you can clean your lettuce leaves off and get a lettuce leaf, add a little bit of coleslaw to your lettuce leaf, add a little bit of the pulled pork, and now you can make a wrap. You can roll it up or wrap it up. Mm. Mm. This is delicious. You've got the kind of this acidity from the coleslaw with a little bit of the sweetness from the barbecue sauce. Delicious. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Again, if you go onto our website, you can see recipes for everything we prepared. If you think about it, we've done this in 45 minutes. We did the vegan pulled pork, and this is using Butler soy curls with some scallions and some jalapenos and some already prepared barbecue sauce. We made a homemade coleslaw. You can make a lighter version of this if you are not able to eat anything that has an oil base. You can use a little bit of plant-based sour cream, a plant-based yogurt, something that doesn't have the oils that a mayo would have, and that will make a nice creamy base. Add in your mustard and your apple cider vinegar, your celery salt. Again, the celery powder would be a better option than celery salt in terms of limiting your sodium. You can bake your baked beans in your Instapot. If you have an Instapot, you can cook them on the stove, or you can buy some already prepared baked beans. I hope you give one of these recipes a try during the course of the holidays over the summer. I would love to hear your feedback as to how you may have modified them, whether you like them, whether you don't like them. But in general, I look forward to having you joining us on another cooking video. Thanks so much for your time, and be well. Take care.